Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here's your detailed weather forecast update for Wednesday, the 20th of August 2025. Heaps to talk about today, especially over on our east coast through southeast Queensland and the northeast and central regions of New South Wales. Some really wet weather is expected to continue through today, tomorrow and Friday. Thankfully it will be a dry weekend, but we've still got some rainfall to talk about over in southwestern Australia and also down in southeastern Australia as well for this weekend. All the details on these weather systems plus more coming up in today's weather forecast update. If you are brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things this morning over with our very soggy eastern states. A large mid-level low pressure system is beginning to develop now over the Queensland New South Wales border, and you can actually make it out here quite clearly on the satellite imagery. That swirl that's beginning to develop in this little part of New South Wales here between Wanaring and Lightning Ridge over the last couple of hours, that is the driving force behind all of this moisture that's coming in for the eastern states this morning. The Sunshine Coast has been absolutely copping it over the last 24 hours. In fact, in the last 6 hours alone, they've had some really significant rainfall accumulations, and some really heavy stuff is beginning to develop now south into southeast Queensland and right along the New South Wales coastline as well through the northeast, the Illawarra, Metro and Hunter coastlines, all copping an absolute drenching this morning, and rainfall is expected to continue. This doesn't look like a typical rainfall event that sits closer to the coastline. This one is inland based, but it's still providing as much moisture as what a typical rainfall event would for New South Wales, and with very warm sea temperatures, this is a potent setup for rainfall accumulations to get out of hand over the next couple of days, with the heaviest rainfall expected in the next 60 hours or so. Let's break down the forecast right now. This mid-level low pressure system causing all sorts of problems, and it's expected to continue causing all sorts of problems as well, really developing and maturing even further throughout the course of today and into tomorrow. Now, the fact that the forecast has changed, it is now moving a little bit further south what we expected. We thought it would eventually hug the border between Queensland and New South Wales, but as this weather system has developed, we now expect it to move a little bit further south into more central New South Wales, which is going to drag that heavy rainfall further south with it. That doesn't change the forecast a whole lot. It does increase rainfall accumulations across the New South Wales central coast and probably decreases them marginally for southeast Queensland, but it doesn't change the forecast in a dramatic way, so there's no need to be up in arms and panicking about that. Rainfall accumulations are expected to really begin to increase even further throughout the course of today. As I pull this back to where it is right now, scattered showers is what we can see on the forecast modelling inland through south central Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. This is expected to tend to heavy rainfall at times, or moderate to heavy rainfall at times later tonight, extending around the Thallin and St George area and then down across the border into Moree, extending down into the core of this low pressure system, which at this point will be located somewhere around Cobar or Dubbo, with moderate falls expected around both locations. Later tonight, rainfall will begin to pipe up for the more mountainous communities into the northern tablelands through Armidale, Tamworth and Glen Innes. Rainfall will then continue to contract to the coastline, and throughout all of this time throughout today, we're expecting rainfall to continue to get heavier across the Sunshine Coast and through the northeast and the north central coast of New South Wales, including for the mid-north coast, and then down through the Metro coastline and into the Illawarra. There's a huge amount of rainfall coming through throughout the course of today. Rainfall will continue to pick up through the northern tablelands and into the high country out of Sydney as well, through the Barrington Tops through early tomorrow morning, and then steady but heavy rainfall is expected to kick in, replacing the showers for the New South Wales coastline south of the border, basically between Queensland and New South Wales, right along the north coastline, right along the mid-north coastline, right along the Hunter coastline and down into the Sydney and Illawarra area. We're then expecting about an 8 to 10 hour period of moderate to heavy rainfall to kick up later tomorrow night across some part of the New South Wales coastline, and right now it looks like those unlucky people to get this rainfall is going to be somewhere between Coffs Harbour down to Newcastle. So steady but heavy rainfall expected to pipe up from about midday tomorrow. That's really going to increase through the afternoon and the evening hours, and then you can see through the nighttime hours we're expecting the rainfall to slowly begin to ease off into early Friday morning, when the rainfall is expected to begin properly drawing away from the New South Wales coastline in a pretty significant capacity. Still a few showers expected here and there, and in fact a low pressure system developing offshore on Saturday could mess up plans for a dry start to the weekend. This low pressure system here is definitely one that's worth watching now in terms of rainfall. I know yesterday I said that this is unlikely to be a significant threat to New South Wales, and that still does remain. We're not expecting this to be a significant threat to New South Wales, but it still could provide some more rainfall accumulations and some more showers to the central New South Wales coastline, so it will still remain a system to watch throughout the course of this weekend. It looks like this weekend might be another washout, unfortunately, though I might have been wrong on the forecast there. But in terms of rainfall accumulations, we still have heaps of rainfall to talk about. Taking it day by day, you can see rainfall accumulations today will be at their heaviest around the mid-north coast and into the northeast coast of New South Wales. But then again, inland across central or south central Queensland through the Granite Belt and the Darling Downs, through Goondiwindi, Chinchilla, Taroom, Roma, Injune, St George and Thallon, and then across the border into the northern tablelands of New South Wales through Moree, and then down towards Coonaball, Coolah, Dubbo, and these sort of locations through here. Rainfall will pick up a little bit further to the coastline through early tomorrow morning. You can see Thursday is expected to be the wettest day, at least for the New South Wales north coastline. We're expecting triple figure rainfall accumulations to be quite widespread right down from the Gold Coast, including the Gold Coast, through the north coast of New South Wales, right down through the mid-north coast, and then down through Newcastle and Sydney. Rainfall accumulations will remain heavy. Friday is also still looking at some heavy rainfall through parts of the mid-north coast and into the northeast of New South Wales, but rainfall on Friday should be solely coastal based, and that also includes rainfall out through this weekend. Further shower activity expected across the central coast of New South Wales, and that shower activity will be lighter, but it will still be there through Sunday before rainfall finally begins to pull away from the New South Wales coastline on Monday. I'll get to this low pressure system in just a few minutes. I'll give it a proper forecast and the airtime that it does actually deserve. Now, rainfall accumulations over the next 5 days. This is total precipitation expected into the next 5 days across this area. You can see southeast Queensland is expecting some decent rainfall accumulations. The majority of the rainfall for the Sunshine Coast is going to come through today, but on and off showers through Thursday and Friday are still expected before rainfall finally begins to bypass the Sunshine Coast through Saturday and Sunday. Rainfall is also expected to be at their heaviest today and into tomorrow for the Gold Coast. We are still expecting a brief period of heavy rainfall to develop around the Gold Coast, and I think those 100 millimetre rainfall accumulations for the Gold Coast and the Gold Coast Hinterland are now right back onto the table, especially with the rainfall that we're seeing developing across the Sunshine Coast right now. Sometimes it's not a good idea to use precedents in weather forecasts. I find it to be incredibly helpful sometimes, and just have a look at these showers here moving into the Sunshine Coast, which are a lot heavier, like a lot heavier than what I was expecting a few days ago. This tells me that we're expecting some very heavy rainfall across the northeast of New South Wales, and that will also extend into the Gold Coast as well as this rainfall gets dragged further south. So these showers here are indicative of some heavy rainfall coming through for the Gold Coast, and it'll be interesting to see how much rainfall they do end up seeing. And right now the forecast models are suggesting right around that 125 millimetre mark that was on our forecast a few days ago, so we're back running with that number. Brisbane, the rainfall accumulation should be lighter. They're looking at around 60 millimetres or so, which is on the upper end of what we were expecting a few days ago. I'm not expecting flooding to be a problem through much of southeast Queensland. However, we could be seeing some minor flooding through a few rivers in the Gold Coast Hinterland and also around Goondiwindi, Stanthorpe, Wollongara and Warwick as well, with some of these heavy rainfall accumulations coming through. Some flash flooding is also a possibility through the Sunshine Coast throughout the course of today if these showers do keep up longer than the next few hours. The northeast of New South Wales, though, is going to run away with the heaviest rainfall accumulations. We've known this for the last couple of days. We're back on the 200 millimetre bandwagon here across a wide swathe of northern New South Wales. You can see Lismore looking at about 100 millimetres, but then those falls really begin to increase for coastal locations south of Lismore, including Coffs Harbour, Kempsey, Port Macquarie, Taree and Nambucca Heads. That's where we're expecting the bulk of the rainfall to fall, and I reckon a wide stretch of locations here, including what has already fallen, are going to end up with about 200 millimetres of rainfall between Taree up to Coffs Harbour as we get out towards this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Rainfall accumulations will be at their heaviest, like I said, on Thursday and into very early Friday morning before the rainfall does begin to ease off, and I expect at least 125 millimetres to fall through Thursday through a swathe of locations south of Coffs Harbour down to Taree. The heaviest falls look to be outside of Kempsey here in Port Macquarie into some of the mountainous regions here. I think the forecast models are underbaking exactly how much rainfall is going to fall. Generally speaking, then we've got a setup like this. The forecast models bias rainfall over the ocean when rainfall inland can be 2 times or even 3 times as heavy. So it'll be interesting to see how the forecast models do perform in this situation here. Unfortunately for soggy Sydney, Newcastle, Gosford, the Hunter region, Illawarra and Metro coastlines, much more rainfall is still to come. You can see maximum rainfall accumulations offshore from Foster and Taree looking at close to 200 millimetres, with the bulk of that coming through Thursday and Friday. But some good falls are still expected further south, and as we talked about in yesterday's forecast update, with today expected to be the wettest day, more showers expected to move through today, and then that will turn to rainfall at times through tomorrow morning and into early tomorrow afternoon. Showers still expected to continue through tomorrow night and into Friday, but they will be a lot weaker weaker. And then as you can see once again through this weekend, as this low pressure system develops, a further 50 millimeters is possible on both Saturday and Sunday. So rainfall accumulations aren't going to go anywhere until about Monday or so. Now, they will of course be a lot lighter through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, with this low pressure system expected to be a little bit further offshore, but still some showers are expected, and that's going to continue to pile on the very miserable weather and the very miserable situation with the rainfall situation over in central New South Wales. Point Perpendicular is so far the wettest spot in New South Wales. I believe they've picked up 175 millimeters so far from this weather event, and it's still raining down there. It's rained basically non-stop since Monday, and a lot more rainfall is still expected to come. This is going to get a whole lot messier, this rainfall picture as well. The radar is expecting to see a lot more rainfall throughout the course of today, so it'll be interesting to see exactly how much rainfall we see, especially this afternoon, if it's going to get even worse than this. You can see it really developing over the last 6 to 8 hours or so. Rainfall has really begun developing nicely over the New South Wales coastline, and it is just expected to get a whole lot heavier throughout the next couple of hours or so. And it's the same deal with the rainfall accumulations inland. Whilst they will contract towards a more steady rain band through northern New South Wales and into south central Queensland, as opposed to this just scattered mess of showers, the rainfall is also expected to get a whole lot heavier throughout the course of today, which is a little bit difficult to believe considering the situation with how much rainfall has already fallen through a few spots here. But yeah, definitely continuing record wet weather for New South Wales and Queensland. Interestingly, through southeast Queensland and much of New South Wales, August and September are historically the driest months for either location, and we're already looking at more rainfall coming in for the Sydney area, at least in this month of August, than typically the wettest months of the year. The Sydney is well on track for 350 or 400 millimeters of rainfall coming through for this month, and even more rainfall is possible after this wet weather continues, because we're still in mid-August, believe it or not, and typically on the month of August we only see about 80 to 120 millimeters coming through for Sydney. So it just goes to show how seriously wet it has been across our eastern states. Just before I get over towards Western Australia, the longer range forecast for southeastern Australia is actually looking dry throughout the remainder of this week, and that's what we get when we see positive southern annular mode weather phases, which is what we're in right now. It drags in the moisture through New South Wales and Queensland, but it generally keeps southeastern Australia, including South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, and Western New South Wales, high and dry. And that's exactly the case here, with the next rainfall expected to come in on Monday and Tuesday, with a few good showers actually expected to come through on Tuesday and Wednesday for the west coast of Tasmania. We could be seeing up to 100 millimeters of rainfall there, and potentially some strong wind gusts. But as you can see on the rainfall forecast, there is not a whole lot to be talking about until at least next week, with the last week of August potentially looking like a wet one through parts of Victoria, Tasmania, and South Australia. And then that continues into the first week of September, with some more rainfall expected down into southeastern Australia. That's going to continue to add to snowfall accumulations as well. You can see especially the first week of September expected to be a bit of a snowy one across parts of southeastern Australia. Take that forecast with a heavy pinch of salt, but the snow is also pretty much set in stone after about the 26th of August as well through Tasmania, Victoria, and New South Wales. And it looks like we could be getting some good snowfall accumulations as well, with a shift to that negative southern annular mode, which is going to bring colder weather and more winter storms to this part of Australia. Rainfall accumulations as well have, as we just looked at, been on the forecast too much over the last couple of days as well. It's pretty cold as well this morning across southeastern Australia. It's not as cold as what it was the last couple of days. Thredbo with the coldest morning so far this year. 2 days ago, Monday morning, minus 13.2 degrees. That is a deep freeze. That is absolutely freezing and terrible, and I feel sorry for everybody that was up there in that. That is not Australian at all. That is Arctic weather. Just over towards southwestern WA, we do have some rainfall coming through this morning, especially through the Perth metro area. Some pretty solid showers moving through right now, and another cold front expected to move through in about 6 hours' time, which is going to bring more rainfall to the southwest. That's expected to pipe up in the next couple of hours or so, but it should happen in the Perth metro area rather around lunchtime, so traffic shouldn't be too bad. But a big northwest cloud band moving through, and this is carrying a lot of moisture. We expected this to move through between Perth and Jurien Bay throughout the course of last night, but it actually shifted a little bit further north, which has dragged in more moisture and some heavier falls than what we were initially expecting through parts of the northern wheat belt, which is fantastic news indeed. This is great rainfall for them. It is starting to get a little bit heavy north of Killarney and Dalwallinu, which could be a little bit of a cause of concern, but in fact the heaviest falls are actually falling north of the wheat belt at this point in time, so that's some good news there. We're still looking at some pretty widespread falls between 30 to 50 millimeters throughout the remainder of this morning, and this rainfall isn't going anywhere in the next couple of hours either for a lot of these wheat belt communities. So good rainfall right now. It's bypassing a few places in the northern wheat belt. You've got to be in the tippy-toppy end of the northern wheat belt to really get this rainfall here. But we did expect this to go into the northern suburbs of Perth and extend north to about Jurien Bay or Cervantes last night. It didn't actually do that. It bypassed the Perth metro area completely and went a lot further north, and that's why rain gauges are looking rather empty compared to what the aggressive forecast was saying yesterday. My gauge has still picked up 46 millimeters of rainfall overnight, so I'm very happy with those rainfall accumulations, and there are a few personal weather stations in the hills that have cracked 50 millimeters, and some of that have even cracked 60 millimeters in spots, as I've been told. But rainfall accumulations, apart from that, through the Perth metro area, widespread falls between 20 to 40 millimeters. Not as great as what we were expecting, but still that's some great rainfall, and we will take it, especially at this time of the year where every drop counts going into the drier months. But yeah, looking at this cold front here, we are expecting this to come through in the next couple of hours or so. It will be a little bit of a sharp one, especially for the southwest Cape. Some strong winds are anticipated, and potentially some storms and small hailstones as well around the southwest Capes, making it up into the Perth metro area through the early afternoon hours and beginning to clear off after about 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. And showers are going to pull away from the coastline through early tomorrow morning by the looks of things for what's going to be a bit of a clearer end to the week. You can see Thursday and Friday, a few showers are possible here and there. A west coast trough then develops, and a bit of a rainfall event then could develop ahead of an approaching cold front through Saturday through parts of interior Western Australia. Not only are we expecting a very high likelihood of a northwest cloud band to develop through Friday night and into Saturday morning, which is going to bring some heavy rainfall to parts of the Gascoyne and even the Pilbara, so through Exmouth and then down to about Mount Augustus and then north to Meekatharra and into the Goldfields. This will be interesting to see here, but we could actually see some decent rainfall accumulations and potentially a thunderstorm or two into interior parts of the wheat belt, especially through the central wheat belt and the northern wheat belt once again through Saturday, and some good rainfall accumulations are definitely a possibility as well. More rainfall is actually a possibility than what we're seeing today if this low pressure system does fully materialize like we're talking about right now. Then a cold front coming through on early Sunday morning, washing out the remainder of the weekend. This one might actually pack a bit of a punch here with some strong winds. A very deep low pressure system is actually expected, and plenty of rainfall is also anticipated as well. And this looks like that strong cold front that we're expecting to close out winter, or we're talking about a couple of days ago to close out winter. This one will pack a punch, coming in Sunday and not leaving us until about late Monday or into early Tuesday. And then it looks like it's a bit of a quieter picture out and towards the start of September, the start of spring. Still some cold fronts expected. It's not until about mid-spring when we start to see these cold fronts dip further south for good, and it's bye-bye to the winter weather until probably May or June of next year. But apart from that, that's going to do it for today's winter weather forecast, or rainfall weather forecast, as we've talked about basically nothing but rainfall across especially eastern Australia. If you have found this video enjoyable and informative, and preferably both, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Of course, a special shout out goes out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them, and of course, as usual, their support is much appreciated. All their names on the screen right now. It makes me smile thinking about each and every one of them. And if you too want to get your name mentioned at this part of the video and also help out the CyclonesOZ channel, then click the join button down below. It's a small price to pay, and it really does help us out here. But that is going to be all from me today. Check out the Facebook page for more updates today, and look out you on the next storm. Goodbye.